Good evening. Tonight we're learning Maseches Moed, Kattan, Daf Yomi. And after we finish Maseches Moed, Kattan, Daf Yomi, it's really amazing. Jonathan Ida is going to be making his first siyum ever on Maseches Psachim, and he's going to come here. He's got trays of sushi and cookies and drinks, v'chule, so we'll be able to celebrate with him. And just a huge simcha to finish your first Masechta. It's a gewalt, so it's great. So right now we're going to be starting on the bottom of Yud Zayin Amud Beis. We're 2 lines before the wide lines at Tanu Rabbanan, and we're going to be heading toward the Mishnah at the bottom of Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. A couple of halacha l'maisa sugis, the famous Gemara about fingernails. That if you should not cut your fingernails and a pregnant woman might walk over them. We're going to discuss that a little bit today, and some other practical halachos, the halachos of getting engaged during Chol HaMoed. So it says the Gemara, 2 lines before the wide lines, 10 lines or so from the bottom, Yud Zayin Amud Beis. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis have taught us, Kol Eilu she'amru mutarim legalech b'moed. In any case scenario where one has a heter to shave during Chol HaMoed, mutarim legalech b'mei evla. Those same case scenarios would warrant one to get a haircut during Avelus. Says the Gemara, that's not true. Some people say that doesn't carry over to the world of Avelus. Amar Rav Chiza, Amar Rav Shila, Kitanya hacha mutarim b'shetakfuhu avelav. When we say in the Brisa that it's mutter during Avelus to get a haircut, that's when it's shetakfuhu avelav, where one Avelus nebach just coincides, one right after the other. They don't overlap, they're coinciding. So he comes out of Avelus, and then Nebuch, another crisis takes place, and he's in Avelus once again. That's when we say it's mutter, but otherwise you're right, it really is not mutter. So says the Gemara, and if that's true, if you're saying the case is one in which there was one Avelus right after the other, then that doesn't make sense. Why then did the Brisa detail my area kol elu she'amru, all of the cases that are previously listed in the Mishnah? No, it has nothing to do with those cases. It has to do with bishatakfuhu avelav, when there's a sequential set of multiple aveluses in a row. So therefore, my area kol elu she'amru afilu kol almanami. Every case should be that way. The Tanya, the Brisa writes elsewhere, takfu avelav ze'achar zeh hichbid sa'aro. If a person's hair is very long and he's going from one avelus nebuch to the next one, mekel b'tar. He's allowed to cut his hair with a razor, not on the scalp, but he can cut the hairs with a razor. And under those circumstances as well, he can also do laundry. 8 lines from the bottom on Yud Zayin Amud Beis, says the Gemara, ha'itmar Allah. We learned already about this. Amar Rav Chizda, b'ta'ar v'lo b'misparayim, b'mayim v'lo b'neser v'lo b'ohel. So the Gemara here answers with the following. There is a case where we say that you're allowed to have a full haircut. That's when you have 2 things going on. That's called elu she'amru. All the cases that we discussed, the cases of getting out of prison, the cases of getting out of pidyon shvuyim, your boat came back late, plus the complication of takfu avelav. That's when we allow a full haircut. Otherwise, no, we only allow the trimming of hair with a razor. I remember when I was a young child, we used to get haircuts in the Purple Hyatt in the basement. What was that guy's name? Mr. Huss, an old European man. And apparently there was this thing, they would take a razor after your haircut and they would just run it over. Have you ever seen this? Like they run it over just to get like the straggling hairs. It's like an old school. So that's the type of haircut that we're talking about. It's just, we're not talking, obviously it's also to do anything on the scalp near the payas, but that's what we're talking about over here. Fine. Says the Gemara, as a diuk from this collection of brises and the answer that Rav Chizda gave, Rav Chizda zos ameres avel aser b'tzichboses, that an avel is not allowed to do laundry. Tanu Rabbanan, 4 lines from the bottom. When we learned that there are generally the rule is that it's usher to get a haircut during the Moed. Rabbi Yehuda was of the opinion that you're not allowed to trim your nails, toenails, fingernails. We'll see which one of the 2 or both in the Gemara later. He says it's not allowed. The Rabbi Yossi matir. Rabbi Yossi says it's allowed. Halacha l'maisa, we paskin, this is quoted in Piskei Chuvos, that if a person regularly trims their nails on Fridays, and then Friday in Chol HaMoed is whatever regular weekday, but Chol HaMoed, you're allowed to trim your nails. But you can't save everything for then. It can't be your once in a blue moon. I only do this once a month, and otherwise I look like I have crazy. That's not right. You should be doing it the right way, whatever it is. But you can't just do it out of the blue. And just like we also learned that it's forbidden for an Avel to get a haircut during his Avelus. So too, the halacha should be that during Avelus, one's not allowed to cut their nails. And Amar Ula, how do we paskin on these cases? We have a machlokas about how to paskin about the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. Halacha Rabbi Yehuda be'Avel. We hold like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to Avelus, which is more machmir. Halacha Rabbi Yossi be'Moed, and we hold leniently like Rabbi Yossi when it comes to Chol HaMoed. But Shmuel argues. Shmuel Amar halacha Rabbi Yossi be'Moed uve'Avel. We paskin leniently in both cases. The Amar Shmuel, and this halacha permeates the laws of Avelus, and the halacha is halacha kedivrei hamekil be'Avel. By and large, there are exceptions, but by and large, we typically try to follow the lenient opinions in the case of machlokes when it comes to the world of Avelus. Hard enough to be an Avelus, as people in this room can testify to for sure, and we try to make it as easy as we can by being lenient. So there was a machlokes about the nails. So machlokes Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, we're going to be mekel about the nails. Cut your nails if that's a stressor for you. Yeah.
Why is there a hekesh between Chol HaMoed and Avelus?
Well, this comparison was made in the beginning of this parak, in the beginning of the third parak. It was questioned. The Gemara is not so clear about the comparison, but it's like days that are not halachically restricted from malacha, but that have some type of secondary restriction in place, right? It's not like formal 39 malachos or 36 malachos, whatever it is on Yom Tov. So the Gemara felt that there was some comparison between them. It's a good question intellectually, academically. It requires the question's a great shiur, a great question for its own shiur about this comparison. But in a Daf Yomi frame, the answer is that it's a machlokas as to whether the comparison has enough meat on the bones to allow for anything to transfer. But L'maisa doesn't matter if you're Shmuel, because Shmuel paskin's lakula anyways. Says the Gemara, an awful story. Pinchas, Achva Demar Shmuel. Pinchas was the brother of Shmuel, the Amora, Shmuel and Rab. And Isra ben Milsa, and Pinchas was in Avelus, someone in the immediate family of Pinchas, though not Shmuel's immediate family, which means it had to be it could have been one of Pinchas's children, or not a parent, because right, there has to be someone that isn't immediately related to Shmuel, because Shmuel wasn't sitting Shiva. Anyways, so Pinchas was sitting Shiva, Isra ben Milsa. That's the Gemara's kind of lashon sagi nohor about needing for something terrible happening. Ol Shmuel lemishal taimamine. He went, literally translated, to ask him a reason, which is not what it means. It just means he went to go pay a shiva call, another type of euphemistic language. And chazinu letufre to havunefishin. Chazinu, he saw letufre, his fingernails, to havunefishin, that they were very long. And remember what Shmuel paskin's like on the top line. Shmuel says, we paskin kedivrei hamekel ba'avel. So he was expecting to see that his own brother, Pinchas, would have cut his nails. Why are you holding on to your nails? That's not, cut them off. You're allowed to cut your nails during Avelus, says Shmuel. Omar le. So Shmuel says to him, Amai lo shakaltu. Why didn't you take them off? Why didn't you cut them? And then Pinchas responded with what turned out to be a very dangerous response. Omar le, ibididei hava. If you, Shmuel, had been in my shoes, if this happened to you, mi mizalzalas be kulehai, would you be so lenient with cutting your nails? So, first of all, halachically, that was a strange question, because we know that Shmuel paskin's lakula. Maybe what Pinchas meant is, I'm in a different emotional state than you are. You're asking me a shaila about my nails. I don't care about my nails. I'm an Avelus. I'm like, his head could have just been in a totally different place. It's hard to know exactly what's going on. But from the Gemara itself, it seems that there was another layer here, because Pinchas knew that Shmuel held leniently in Hilchos Avelus, and that we paskin like Rabbi Yossi, that you should cut your nails. Anyways, it was as though something inadvertent had come out of the mouth of the king. If the king says accidentally, please kill person X, the person's dead before he knows it, right? Even if it's an accident. The Isra be Milsa b'Shmuel. Pinchas said something and it ended up becoming true. We should be careful with what we say, careful for what you wish for, or whatever the right, today's colloquialism. What?
I wish for sushi.
Well, you may just get what you wish for. So then things turned around. Now Pinchas was out of Shiva, and Shmuel was paying a Shiva call to Pinchas. So Pinchas was out of Shiva and Shmuel was in Shiva. All Pinchas, the Achva limishael tamemine, and then Pinchas went to go to his brother, to Shmuel. And you know what Shmuel did? Shmuel was angry. He partially blamed his brother for the death of his immediate family member. Shaklinhu letufre. He took his fingernails. Chavtinu le'ape, and he whipped him in the face of his brother. because it was like the whole sugya was around the nails. So he's like, I'm so upset, and he took his fingernails and he tossed them at his brother as he sat in the chair opposite the low chair. Don't you know how powerful your mouth is? What you can say and what can come true. We have a covenant with our words that when we say things, they can happen. How do we know that we have such power with words? With the story of Akedas Yitzchak, you guys sit here with the donkey. We will go over there, and we will prostrate ourselves. We'll do our avoda, and then the key word, we'll come back to you. No, Yitzchak shouldn't have come back. It's the Akedah. Yitzchak should have died. So Rashi on the spot, not here, Rashi ala Parsha says that he said a nevuah. He didn't even realize what he was saying. He said a nevuah. He didn't know what it was. It just fell out of his mouth. And what happened? V'istaya milsa dehadar tarvaihu. And because that came out of his mouth, he said a prophecy. It's bris krusa l'sfasayim. And what ended up coming out of his mouth is true. So that's how we know that we should be very, very careful with what we say to other people in general. And we should also feel a tremendous empowerment for the power of good to happen as well. Daven for good things to happen for other people. It might be one of the reasons why the Gemara says that kol hamitzpalal al chavero hunen etchila. You're using your koach hadibur for the right thing. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. What? I would like to see that. Amen. Okay, you should get married. Amen. There you go. Says the Gemara, end of story a little bit. Says the Gemara, Savor Mineh, not everybody understood Shmuel. Savor Mineh de Yad in, that he only held that you can cut your fingernails, de regulo, but to cut your toenails, you're not allowed. And that's not true. Amar Rav Onan bar Tachlifa, Lididi mifresh ali mineh de Shmuel, lo shna de yad velo shna de regel. That's incorrect. We don't make this separation of fingernails and toenails. If you allow one, you allow the other. If you don't allow one, you don't allow the other. Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar Rav uvignustera aser. You're not allowed to use a gnustera. What is this tool? Rashi. Right, it's not really Rashi, by the way. I never said this earlier in the Maseches. It's not Rashi. It's some other commentary in the Rishon. It's quite similar to Rashi, but if you look on the bottom of the Oz V'Hadar, I don't know if this is in the regular Gemaras, but I have on the bottom Rashi Ksav Yad. And it's very, 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 very succinct, similar to what we are used to in Rashi. And we're going to learn one of those Rashis today. But anyways, whatever looks like Rashi, a quarter of the way down, says misparaim, which is scissors. But if you look in Tosfos, Tosfos does not have the same understanding as this second Tosfos. Uvignustri aser pirush be'aruch. The aruch was a commentary that explained a lot of words, obviously from the times of earlier than Tosfos. The last of the Balei Tosfos was the Rush in the 1300s. The Rush was the father of the Tur, who wrote the book that was basically the precursor to the Shulchan Aruch. It was the precursor to the Shulchan Aruch. So we know that this is 1,000 years old, be'erech. And what does the Aruch say? Shu kli hamisukan lital tzipornayim. It's that thing that we use to cut our nails. It's a unique kli. The kach shemo, that's its name. Umi lashon de gnustra aser. Okay, fine. Then it goes into the details. But lemaisa, they had some type of fingernail cutting contraption. Ours is probably, I'm just guessing, different than what they had, but they had something that wasn't scissors. So Rashi and Tosfos differ as to whether or not we're talking about scissors. The my nafkamina. It's a huge nafkamina. What's the normal way to cut your nails? Is the normal way to cut your nails with scissors, in which case it's probably going to be usher according to Rabbi Yehuda, or is it with I don't even know what they're called, the nail cutters, whatever. Do they have a name? I don't even know. Clippers. Nail clippers. So then are those mutter? What? Oh, the Gemara is going to discuss that in a minute. Yeah, the Gemara is going to discuss that in a minute. So, anyways, the Gemara says that when we have the leniency to cut our nails, it's not with a gnustera and just lemaisa, just a debate as to what we're talking about. The Gemara says halfway down on Yud Ches, Amar of Shemin bar Abba, have a keimna kame de Rav Yochanan be medrasha bechula shel Moed. I was in the base medrash on Chol HaMoed with Rav Yochanan, v'shaklinhu letufre b'shine v'zarkinhu, and he bit his nails, l'tufre, b'shine, he bit his nails, v'zarkinhu, and he threw them. Says the Gemara, Shma mina tzlas. I've learned three things from him. Shma mina motor litol tzipornayim b'chulo shel Moed. First things first, the day of the week, the day of the year. It's Chol HaMoed, and he's tearing his toenails with his, well, maybe not his toenails, that's acrobatic, but he's biting his fingernails. I could never do that, man. I failed that test every single year. We had the presidential test. How far can you get to your toes? Nowhere near them. Never got close. Really? Okay, thank you for sharing. Ushma mina. What's the second thing that we learned? Ein bahan mishum mias. It's not considered disgusting to bite your nails. Okay, that's interesting. It is kind of gross, but We'll discuss a halachic application of this shortly. Ushmamina mutter l'zorkan. And we also learned that it's mutter for one to throw their nails on the ground, seemingly, which is strange because the Gemara says, Eini, is that correct? Ve'atanya, shlosha dvarim ne'emru b'tzipor naim. The Chachamim in a Brisa wrote that there are three things that we should know about tzipor naim. Hakovran tzaddik, someone who buries their nails, they're tzaddikim. Sorfan chasid, those who burn their nails, they are chasidim. Some have a minhag to burn their nails with their chametz. They collect their nails throughout the year and they put it into the fire on Pesach. Brandis, I can see it happening in your yard. Save them up. Save them up. Bunch of girls in the family. Everybody's clipping the nails in a bag on Fridays,
That's his favorite season.
Absolutely. That's right. Yes, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. And what's the last one? Says the Gemara, Zorkan, Russia. You're not allowed to throw your toenails. Why are you not allowed to throw your toenails? Time of my 2/3 of the way down. Shema tavor alehen isha ubara v'tapil. That maybe Rahmana litzlan, a woman who's pregnant, will miscarry by walking over nails. I don't have the explanation for how and why this works. I did see in one of the modern, not now, many years ago, I saw in one of the postgame that this is interesting. We're not on a level for this kind of a thing to apply to us. That's what I saw written in poskim. I don't know if it's the Maisa. I don't poskim anything. I'm just saying that's what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like. So anyways, says the Gemara, how can you say that Shmuel was spitting out his? That's not right. That's the Gemara's whole kasha. Says the Gemara, don't worry. Isha be medrash lo shchicha. Women don't come to the base medrash. They don't sit in the base medrash and shtag on the men's side. It doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. So what's the concern? Men aren't pregnant, and it doesn't matter. You're fine. You're good to go. The only danger is for pregnant women. And if you want to say zimnin de michne shelahu, we're going to collect them all up. We're going to sweep, and then we're going to dump it all out in the yard. V'shadilu avroy. We're going to put it outside, and maybe outside in the hallway or in the garbage can or out in the grass. And women do walk there. Kevan de ishtane. Once you move a nail from where it's resting after it falls, and you move it, the whole heebie-jeebie thing is gone. Nothing to worry about. I looked in the Maharsha for a perush on this. I don't have a lot of time to research it, but I don't understand this. I don't. If anybody knows, I'd love to hear. But there's no simple explanation in the Gemara. It just seems to be one of the many things that we've learned in Shas, like about amulets and about potions and about incantations and the different things that we don't understand. Maybe one day we'll be sophisticated enough to understand them. But as of now, that's how Shmuel gets out of it. And just so you should know halacha l'maisa, the poskim discuss this halacha about biting nails when a woman has to go to the mikvah on Shabbos or Yom Tov and she forgets to cut her nails. And that's the din in Shulchan Aruch, that a woman has to cut her nails to make sure that they're clean, no chatzitzas. So the poskim recommend to find a non-Jewish woman to bite the nails of the woman who has to go to the mikvah. It's quoted in the poskim as a real shita.
Why not cut them?
That's an Isser D'Oraisa. It's Shabbos or Yom Tov. That's mamish an Isser D'Oraisa.
Bite nails on Shabbos? No.
It's Nisur D'Rabbanan, but because of the mikvah, we allow them to intermingle. That's fine. It's a because that level of Amir La'akum is on a din d'oraisa level. It's a din d'Rabbanan, but she's doing a din d'oraisa for you, which she can do a din d'Rabbanan. You're asking the practical questions. We're talking up here in the theoretical realms of what would be the best halachic option. It's super weird. Yeah. I remember where I was sitting in the Beis Medrash in Eretz Yisrael when I learned this, because everyone was like, "Huh?" Yeah, that's what it says. That's what some of the poskim say.
Shabbos guy taps out. Like, yeah, we're done.
Yeah. You want me to flip a light switch? No problem. I got you. No problem. Always the entrepreneurial one. I appreciate that. Says the Gemara 3 lines before the white lines. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Oh, you're a businessman. Always thinking. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Zug ba mechamsan lifnei Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda Amarav and Amora made a statement referred to as a memra. Whenever Amoraim speak, their statements are referred to as memras. And this is not in the Brisa, according to this version. And Rabbi Yehuda Amarav said that there was a pair of people who came from Chamsam, which is a location, Lifnei Rebbe. But Umar Zutra says it wasn't Rabbi Yehuda Amarav who said this. Masni, it was from a Mishnah or a Brisa that Zugba Machmasan Mechamsan Lifnei Rebbe. Ubikshu mimenu tzipor naim v'hiter lehem. And they asked him, is it mutter to cut nails? The Rishonim here discuss, are we talking about Chol HaMoed or are we talking about Avelus? Not clear at all from the Gemara which one we're talking about. So very, very gentle but important insight to make is we don't know what season we're talking about. Is it Avelus or is it Chol HaMoed? Anyways, V'hiter lehem, Rebbe said it's mutter. And then the Gemara says, seemingly in this brisa, V'im bikshu mimenu safa, had they asked about cutting a mustache, Hiter lehem, he would have let them do that as well. And then says the Gemara in the first of the long lines, no, Taka, they did ask this question, and he let them do it. And Amar Avital Safra Mishmei Derav, Safa Mizavis Lezavis. One is allowed to cut their mustache from corner to corner. Rashi explains corner to corner is where anything that is in between that overlaps the lips, because it's very, very difficult to eat. Says the next line of the Gemara, Amar Rav Ami uvesafa hame'akeves. The reason why you're allowed to trim the hairs of your mustache, again, during Chol Moed, during Abelis, is because it can interfere with the eating of your food, and that's unpleasant. Even though some people dafka grow their mustaches out that way. It's good for them, but you're allowed technically to cut your mustache during this period of time. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak lididi kisafa hame'akeves damili. Even if it's not in my mouth, he was more of like an istinus. He was very much more like finicky, like nothing could get close to his lips. Like like almost, I'm using my own poetry here. It was almost like he had a sensory issue of having like hair on his lips. It wasn't the halachic issue of safa me'akeves, but he still allowed for cutting of the hair, even if it only bothered him personally, even if it wasn't, inhibiting him from eating food. And another statement by the same person, Amar Avitol Safra Mishmei Derav, Paro Shahaya Bimei Moshe, the Paro that was in the time of Moshe, who Amma, he was a very short person, was a Kano Amma, and his beard was an Amma, Uparma Shtako Amma, Amma Vizeres. Rashi says it's speaking about Amma, about his private parts. And the Rashi on the bottom of the page says it was referencing the length of Orla, Dafka. I mean, nothing to do with the body itself, just the length of Orla. I can share with you as a practitioner of the trade, if there's a very long Orla and a normal anatomy, very difficult bris. But we can discuss the details later. Okay, says the Gemara, how do we know this is true? Fine, pasuk to reference. Another statement by him. He was some type of sorcerer. He was doing things with water. Rashi here discusses what exactly was going on with the water. Okay, at the 2 dots, 5 lines, 6 lines from the bottom, Yud Ches Amud Aleph, says the Gemara, we said that there are those who are allowed to do laundry. That includes people who are traveling from out of town. But if a person only has one garment, then he's allowed to do laundry on Chol Hamoed. That's all he has. It's all he can afford. The poskim discuss, if you run out of laundry, is it better to do laundry or buy more clothes? And the halacha is it's better to go buy more clothes. So one year this happened to me. I ran out of shirts to wear for Shabbos and Yontif. So better than doing laundry, much as it costs me more money, because laundry is very inexpensive, all things being equal, a buck a load of laundry, whatever it is, it's nothing. A shirt's 30, 40, 50 bucks. I went out to the store and I went to go, you don't have a choice. Like you have to ask a shiur. That's what's going to happen. That's what they'll tell you. So he's allowed to do the laundry. Says the Gemara asking a question, Masiv Rav Yirmiyah, hold on. What did our Mishnah say? That the only people who are allowed to do this are people who can do laundry, are people who are stuck out of town. Hani in only those who have those traveling things that came up. The fact that you're poor, that's not correct. So Amrle Rav Yaakov, Rav Yirmiyah, Asber Alach Masnis and Afal Gab, the Islay Trey Umetanfe. No, it's they're all woven in together. But if you have two and then they're dirty, so all of these halachos are really inferred from the same source, and there is no contradiction. Shalach Rav Yitzchak bar Yaakov bar Giuri Mishmei Rav Yochanan. Klei Pishtan, if you have garments that are made out of linen, muter lechabsan b'chulo shel moed, they're very, very easy to clean, and therefore one is allowed to clean them on chol hamoed. Because remember that we're talking about tircha, right? So we have no tircha in laundry. I mean, the laundry is annoying, but it's not the actual cleaning part we don't even do. We just have to collect it and put it in the machine and hit a button. So yes, that's a tircha because laundry is scattered evenly all over the house. So yeah, it's annoying. But actual laundry is not a tircha because the cleaning part is not what we do. You throw a Tide Pod in and you push a button and Shalom Yisrael, the clothes come out for the most part pretty clean. So really, according to this logic, we should have no restrictions in doing laundry. The poskim also say that by kids' clothes, which just gets soiled and disgusting, for sure you can do laundry on that. Undergarments, some poskim say, and not really what we're talking about. Fine. Says the Gemara, let's ask a kasha on this about doing linen laundry on clothing that's made out of linen. Last line. Masiv Rabban, mitbechos hayadayim, if you have towels of the hands, we saw this price already, or mitbechos hasaparim, top of your chesed beis. Or if you have the towels that are used by people who are sapar and people who give haircuts. So we infer from this brisa that hani these are the ones that are allowed to be washed. However, klei pishtan lo. But you just said that the klei pishtan, there's really no tircha there. They can be washed. Here, the inference from the Brisa is that only those things that are specifically listed can be washed. The towels of the sapar and the towels of the, what was the first one? The hand towels. Says the Gemara, Amar le Abaye masne afilu deshar mine. For the towels, I agree that even the linen can work, but regular linen garments cannot be clean. Says the Gemara, that's not true. Amar bar Hidya, a rare name. I don't know that we've ever heard it before in Shas. I don't know. And Bar Hijja must have lived at the time of Abaye because they seem to be having a direct conversation. So that's 4th century of Amoraim. That's approximately 350. Somewhere around there. Amar Bar Hidya ledidi chazili. I saw with my own 2 eyes. Yama shel Tveria. People were standing in the water of Tveria. Demafkile meshichle demane kitna. People stood there with baskets filled with linen clothing, and it was bechula demoada. They were doing laundry. So maskif la Abaye. So what? Man leima lan debaratzon chachamim abde. Who says that they were doing what the chachamim asked? You can't ask me a kasha on what the people are doing. The people talking davening. The people speak lashon hara. The people do a lot of wrong things. You can't. That's not a raya. A lot of people smoke. There's a lot of things that we do that aren't right. It doesn't matter. That doesn't make it right. So this is just interesting because in the Gemara, when we bring a raya from a Rav, done. You're right. It's a beautiful kasha. But when you're asking a kasha on what the people do, that's not a raya. That's not a raya. The fact that people behave in certain ways, have made certain societal norms, doesn't make it mutter. The fact that it's happening doesn't make it allowed. And Abai calls them out on that. They're not doing something right. They're doing something wrong. They should not be doing it. New Mishnah, 8 lines down. Yudches Amud Beis, says the Gemara, Be'elu Kosvin B'Moed. Says the Gemara, what about writing on Chol HaMoed? This is a big discussion in Shulchan Aruch and Halacha L'Maisa. We really should try to avoid writing on Chol HaMoed unless any of the following scenarios come up. Kiddushay Nashim, Kiddushin for women. Says the Gemara, V'Gittin, divorce papers, V'Shovrin, receipts. Daitike, Rashi says that Daitike is a shtar tzava. It's a will. A person's last will and testament, they're on their deathbed, and this is the time that they need to write it. It's now or never. So that's allowed. Matana, we have to figure out what that's talking about. We give gifts all the time. All of a sudden, you can write, thank you for having me for Yontif, because you're giving a gift. Okay, we'll have to see. Pruzbalin, of course, we know the documents that prevent the dissolving of a loan at the times of a Shemitah cycle. Igros Shum, when you have an evaluation document, we have these for like our houses every year. We get an appraisal value for our homes, whatever it is. The Igros Mazon, documentation that has to do with food. Shtari Chalitza, Umiunen, let's do those two. Shtari Chalitza, we know a star that Chalitza took place. Miyun is we'll discuss this in the Gemara, not today, but another time. Miyun is about when a younger girl is going to be getting married, that certain family members can reject the marriage. Ushtare birurin. Rashi says shtare birurin. If you look a quarter of the way down in Rashi says beruru bezdin chelek zeh lozeh v'chelek zeh lozeh. It's like a psak bezdin that one is in fact allowed to write down something where the bezdin clarifies who owns what. Let's say there's a machlokas, so then you can put that information in. Fine. And Gzeros Bezdin, the Bezdin is allowed to write down their Gzeros. The Igros Shel Rishus, if you're dealing with governmental issues, let's say someone's a lobbyist, we have in Chicago, Shlomo Soroka is down there all the time. So if writing something is going to help get a bill passed, no problem. That's like for Rosh Mishnah, that's what we're talking about. Those things are all allowed. The Poskim discuss what about Talmud Torah. Mirza Hashem will get there at some point. The Gemara opens 10, 12 lines down, Amar Shmuel. One is allowed to get engaged on Chol HaMoed. Shema Yikad Menu Acher, because otherwise someone could chop up this girl. She's a good girl. Now, the Erisin of the day, back in the day, is not what we call Erisin. Today's Erisin is halachically 0. Fanfare pictures, but it's halachically 0. To give a woman a ring and say, will you marry me, does not have any bearing in Jewish law, except that you just spent a truckload of money. Other than that, no halachic anything. Erisin in halacha is when you say harad mekudeshesli and give a woman an item that belongs to you, that's a shava pruta, and she accepts it in front of Adam. That's Erisin. Still can't touch at that point. It's still Isser Yichud at that point. And then only with the second phase of marriage, which is the actual chuppah v'kiddushin, that's standing under the chuppah, sheva brachos, and then they're allowed to go to Yichud. There's a big shaila in halacha. When does a woman have to start covering her hair? So a lot of poskim, most poskim seem to say that a woman is allowed to be at her own wedding with her hair uncovered without wearing a sheitel, because the machriya, the final makeh b'patish to ensure that a couple's married is tash mishamita. Yichud is not enough, and therefore a woman even after yichud is not enough, even though the shiur yichud is dafka one for tash mishamita. The shiur of yichud is 9 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the poskim say, is a period of time where it's reasonable for a couple to be mishamish mitasam. Afal pikein. So most poskim say that a woman is not obligated to cover her hair until after they have had tash mishamita. However, Rav Willig from YU and other poskim as well Absolutely not. Even under the chuppah, you should be wearing a sheitel. Very makbid. Okay, I hear that. I hear that more than I hear the other way. I'm not saying, I'm not making a macha. That makes more sense to me, but that's what the Gemara not discussing here. But anyways, you can get engaged on Chol HaMoed, and we're concerned, Shema Yikad Menu Acher. We'll learn a little bit of Musar from the Gemara on the bottom of the page. Asks the Gemara, Lema Misayele, maybe Shmuel can have a raya from our Mishnah. Ve'elu Kosvin b'moed Kedushay Nashim. That's what our Mishnah says. Maybe Shmuel is drawing from our Mishnah. Says the Gemara, my love, is it not in fact that Shtari Kedushin Mamish, that when we talk about Shtari Kedushin, we're talking about paperwork that indicates that Taka, I witnessed that these two people did Erusin, that he gave her the ring. Says the Gemara, nope, lo, Shtari Psikta. Shtari Psikta are documentations, as the Gemara explains. Uchadar of Gidal Amarav. What does Rav Gidal Amarav say? The Amarav Gidal Amarav, Kama ata nosin levincha. You say to the groom's side, how much are you putting into the pot for your son? Kach v'kach. And he answers, and Kama ata nosin levitcha. How much are you going to put into the pot for your daughter? Kach v'kach. And that you can write down to make sure that there's a minimized, it's like an operating agreement, to make sure that everybody knows that they're on a safe playing field. Everybody knows what's going on. And if they get up after that and there's kiddushin, then there's kinyan. Absolutely, that works. These things actually also work with words, but it's mutter to write them down. So no, we cannot bring a raya for Shmuel from our Mishnah. Let's try again. Lema misayele. Maybe we can bring another raya for what Shmuel said. You can't get married on Chol HaMoed. Not women who've never been married and not women who have been married. We don't do yibum. We learned about this already. Of ein ma'arvin simcha v'simcha. We're not allowed to have two moments of simcha that coincide with one another, because that is, we learned a couple of svars, but we got to get into the Rishonim about this, because we have to make sure that the simchas are not diluted. Says the Gemara, what's the deal that applies perfectly to Shmuel? Yeah, you can't get married, hala'ares shapir, but you can get engaged. So says the Gemara, no, that's not correct. Almost halfway down, says the Gemara, no, really, this brisa is a lomi boya karmar. It's saying not only this, but even that. What is it trying to say? Lomi boya la'ares to lo ka'avid mitzvah. I don't need you to tell me that you're not allowed to be ma'ares, because the erusin is not a mitzvah. It's a precursor to a mitzvah at most, but it's not a mitzvah in and of itself. Otherwise, you'd make a bracha on it. And then give her the ring. We don't do that. There's no bracha. Lomi boy, that you can't do that because there's no mitzvah. But even in a case where you are getting married and it is a mitzvah, it's still usher. So it says the Gemara, Shmuel yet again has no raya. Toshma, let's learn a brisa. The Tana de Beis Shmuel me'arsin aval lo konsin taka. You're allowed to be me'aris. You can get engaged, but you cannot finish with a chuppah. You're not allowed to do that. Vein osin seudas erusin v'lo miyaben mibnei simcha hilo. You as well are not allowed to have the seudas erusin party just for the engagement party. No yibum, because that's ma'arvin simcha v'simcha. Says the Gemara, umiyamar Shmuel shama yikad menu acher. Is Shmuel really right that he says that maybe someone's going to chop the bride? You've been dating for, I guess, back in the day. I guess you weren't. You've seen each other 2-3 times, right? The parents have spoken. Everything is all cleared up on the financial front. So what does Shema Yikad Menu Acher mean? No one's going to take her. After all, B'chol Yom Vayom Bas Kol Yotzes V'omeres Bas Ploni LePloni. These things are governed on high. They're not governed down here. We don't, what are you worried about? Someone's going to chop the girl? No, Sadeh Ploni, LePloni, this field. These things are all determined by God. So it says the Gemara, a crazy line, Rabbi Fran, there's a whole shiur on this one line in Daf Gemara. Maybe through the power of tefillah alone, the second reference today to the power of speech, that I, in prayer, could take someone else's bride before they get engaged, erusin, and therefore one is allowed to get engaged on Chol HaMoed. Ki hada Rava, because this actually is how things work. Shame lehahu gavra de boy rachame. Rava heard that there was a man who was praying. V'amar tizdamen li palnisa. He was davening for this specific woman who he thought that he needed to marry. So Amar le, Rava says to him, lo ti boy rachme hachi. No, that's not how things work. Because ichaz yalach lo azlaminach. If in fact she's the one that's right for you, she's not going anywhere. And v'ilo, if she's not shaykh for you, and you daven for her, and you don't get her, kafarta b'Hashem, you're going to say, Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't listen to tefillos. No, you're a shegitz. You totally daven the wrong way. That's not how we daven. So says the Gemara, this guy, he never learned the lesson. Basar hachi shamei dekamer. Rava heard the same guy davening again. O ihu lamus mikama. O ihi tamus mikame. He should die before her. She should die before him. Whichever it is. if I can't have her, nobody can have her. This is the same language. Amar le lava minolach. Didn't I already tell you? Lo tiboy Allah demil sahachi. That's not how you didn't daven. You daven for your basher. You daven for the one who's going to help you. That the biggest ben aliyah, whatever. But it's not for person X. That's not how it works. Okay, a few quick statements of this newish Amora. I guess I don't know. I don't know if you've ever seen his name before. Amar Rav Shmuel. That's not correct. Amar Rav Mishum. Rabbi Ruvain ben Itzrobili. He's actually a Tana now that I'm thinking about it, because Rav's quoting him, and Rav was the first judge of what?
Sounds like an opposite.
Oh, okay. It could be. Maybe he was. I don't know. But he says that from all three of the books of Tanakh, May Hashem Isha Leish, we know that a woman is determined to be with a particular man up in heaven. Only from Hashem. It says that it's only from Hashem. Okay, good. Next statement of this person, Rabbi Ruvain ben Itzrobili ve'Amri la b'masnisa. Some say it wasn't him. Some say it was in a Mishnah Tana. Amar Rav Ruvain ben Itzrobili. Ein adam nechshad b'davar ela im kein asa'o. A person never has a rumor about them unless he did it. Wow. It's a little bit of a mic drop, but we're going to have to qualify that because it's just not always true. And if he didn't do the whole thing wrong, says the Gemara, asa miksaso, he must have done something wrong. And even if he didn't do anything wrong physically, he was desiring for it to happen. Even if he wasn't the one who was desiring the thing, he saw that other people were doing this aver, and he's like, oh, Givaldik, I wish I could be involved in that aver. So says the Gemara, I mean, it can't always be true. So the Gemara asks, last at the middle with lines, Masiv Rabbi Yaakov, what we refer to as the chait of the 10 Shvatim, where they said negative things about Hashem. That's ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with Hashem. Says Gemara, no, Hasam lahachis u'da'avu. They were speaking negatively. Everybody, they were lahachis. If someone says something about you lahachis, then it has no meaning. It's only if people are saying it about you and no one has any reason to think anything negative about you, then it's a problem. Tashma, another source that poses a difficulty here, that there was kinui by Moshe, kinui and stira. Remember from the world of Sota that kinui is where we're concerned that a husband's wife was with another man. So it says the Gemara, how do Rav and Shmuel understand this pasuk? Second of the widest lines. Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak Amar Milamed Shekol Echad Kine LeIshto Moshe. Could you imagine being Moshe Rabbeinu, taking the Jews out of the desert, all of the magic, all of the nisim, all of the leadership, all of the sacrifice, and all of a sudden, everyone from Adas Korach, who's having this whole big battle with Moshe, they all tell their wives, "Don't be with Moshe. Don't be with Moshe. I'm warning you, don't be with Moshe," because that's how they wanted to start a rumor about Moshe, that he wasn't the right leader. So that's what they did. Says Gemara, no, Hasam Mishum Sana Huda, but they all hated him. They were upset. Rav Lachem B'nei Levi, you took all the leadership. They were angry. So they said something they shouldn't have said. Tashma, let's try again. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Yehei Chelki im mi shechashudin oso b'davar ve'inbo. Let me be one of the people who people say things about me that aren't true. So we see very clearly that that's not really the case. That when people say bad things about you, then it means that you were involved. Papa, last one, Lididi chashdon velo hababi. He said, by me, people were choshed me about something, and I was totally innocent. So therefore, says the Gemara, lo kasha. There's not a problem. The first statement of Rav Ruvain ben Atzruboli, the lo kasha ha bekala de pasik and ha bekala de lo pasik. One's talking about a rumor that stops, and if the rumor stops, then taka, it's true, then maybe you did nothing wrong. And one is habakala delo pasik, where the rumor doesn't ever stop, and if the rumor doesn't ever stop, then you're probably somewhat guilty, even if the most minor thing that you did, I should say, even if the most major thing that you did is just thinking about it or watching others be involved in this avera and enjoying it. So says the Gemara, you're guilty. You're guilty of something. You're guilty. What is considered to be an amount of time where a kol is not pasik, that it doesn't stop? So says the Gemara, it's a very short time frame. Amar Abai, Amar Li'aim, Domi Demata Yoma Upalga. Rumors in the city, day and a half. My gosh. Today, the world is a different place. You could put up one comment about one person and it takes down the cancel culture, takes down everything about that person's life, their parnasa, their marriage, everything. It takes almost nothing to ruin someone if you want it. So says the Gemara, it's only a day and a half. As mentioned, it's only if there isn't a breaking point in the rumors. If during that day and a half there was a break, then less than by you're not guilty. And even if there was a break, that break is not meaningful. It can't be that you did it out of fear that you stopped talking about it. Pasak machmasir alone. But if the reason that the rumor stopped is because you were scared of the guy, that doesn't make him innocent. It just makes him scary. The only time that this is going to be the case is where people don't start talking about it again. But if people still talk about it after the break, so then no. So then that's you're still potentially guilty. We only have this rule when there are no enemies. If you have enemies, then it's going to be your enemies who bring it about you. Hashem should bless us to never be criticized for things that we've never done. It's a terrible experience, I'm sure. We'll stop right here and pick up tomorrow with Daf Yotes. Wishing you all a beautiful night. We're going to start. Let me just make sure Dr. Ida's here. All right. Yeah, you start. I'll bring it in. Yeah. Dr. Ida is making his first sium ever.
Thank you. Hey guys. All right, can I say a couple words? Is that all right? All right. So you guys don't know this, but I'm actually learning with you. I'm just 10 months behind you. So I'm finishing Pesachim tonight. So I get to see every time that like Phil, there's like a break in the recording. I know someone said something inappropriate. So, it's a good time. So
did you just say my bad?
Yeah. Yeah, mostly I figured, oh, you know what? Rabbi Robinson wanted to know when we're starting. Hold on a second. All right. The other thing I wanted to just let you know that this is I've finished things before, but I've never done a sium because I personally, it was a little hard for me to come to get past sort of what I thought it might be like self-aggrandizing or something like that. But I spoke with Rabbi Robinson a couple of weeks ago and he was like, get over it, do it. So here we are. So, all right. And this is my first time doing it, so you get to see me cut my teeth on, this stuff. Yeah. All right. So we're learning the last sugya in Maseches Pesachim. It is a sugya that follows and is supposed to be related to something before it that doesn't seem actually related at all, right? You start at the end of Pesachim talking about whether a zrika is subsumed within, what is the word for it? A pouring. What's a pouring? Svicha, right? Shvicha. But then it moves into this discussion about Pidyon Haben, kind of out of nowhere, seemingly unrelated. So it starts. Rabbi Simla, Ikla le Pidyon Haben. Rabbi Simlai attended a Pidyon Haben. Ba'u mine, they brought him a dilemma. Pshita al Pidyon Haben. Obviously at Pidyon Haben, the bracha Asher Kedishanu Misasovet Sivanu al Pidyon Haben is said by the father, right? Avi Haben Mevarech. Baruch she'echianu v'kiyamanu v'higyanu l'zman hazeh, the she'echianu. Kohen Mevarech or Avi Haben Mevarech. Does the Kohen say that or does the father say that? On the one hand, Kohen Mevarech, the Kohen has the benefit, right? The kamate hana'a lidei, the priest recites a blessing because he benefits. O Avi Haben Mevarech, or does the father do the blessing? Dika Aved Mitzvah, because he is completing the mitzvah, or the scar of the mitzvah. Lahava Bidei. Rabbi Simlai did not have an answer for that. So Ata She'il Beis HaMedrash, he took it to the Beis HaMedrash and asked him, Talmidei Chachamim. Amrulei, they said to him, Avi Haben Mevarech Shtayim. They said to him, the father of the son recites two blessings. The Hilchta, and the halacha is Avi Haben Mevarech Shtayim. The halacha is that the father of the son recites both blessings. Hadron Alech Arvei Pesachim V'Slicha Lach Maseches Pesachim. All right. Hadron Alach Maseches Pesachim v'Hadron Alan Datan Alach Maseches Pesachim v'Datach Alan La Nisnashe Minach Maseches Pesachim v'La Tisnashi Minan la ba'alma hadain v'la ba'alma daseh. Hadran alach Maseches Pesachim v'hadrach alan datan alach Maseches Pesachim v'datach alan la nis neshe minach Maseches Pesachim v'la sis neshi minan la ba'alma hadain v'la ba'alma daseh. Hadran alach Maseches Pesachim v'hadrach alan datan alach Maseches Pesachim v'datach alan la nis neshe minach Maseches Pesachim v'la sis neshi minan la ba'alma hadain v'la ba'alma daseh. Yehi ratzon lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avosenu shet hei torasecha umanusenu ba'olam hazeh ushei imanu le'olam haba. Chanina bar Papa, Rameh bar Papa, Nachman bar Papa, Achai bar Papa, Abba Marei bar Papa, Rafram bar Papa, Rachish bar Papa, Surchav bar Papa, Ada bar Papa, Daru bar Papa. Ha'arev na Adonai Eloheinu es divrei sorascha befinu uvafi amcha beis Yisrael v'nihiyeh anachu v'te'etzeinu v'te'etze'eh amcha beis Yisrael kulanu yodei shemecha v'lomdei sorascha lishma. May oivai tichakmeni misvosecha ki leolam hili yehi libi samim bechukecha leman lo evosh leolam lo eshkach pikudecha ki vam chitani baruch ata Adonai lamdeni chukecha amen 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 sela va'ed. Modim anachnu lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avosenu shesamta chelkenu miyoshvei beis hamedrash velo samta chelkenu miyoshvei kranos. She'anu mashkimim v'hem mashkimim. Anu mashkimim ledivrei Torah v'hem mashkimim ledvarim b'teilim. Anu amelim v'hem amelim. Anu amelim u'makablim sachar v'hem amelim v'einam makablim sachar. Anu ratzim v'hem ratzim. Anu ratzim l'chayei ha'olam haba v'hem ratzim liver shachas. Shene'emar va'ata Elohim toridem liver shachas anshe damim umirma lo yechetzu yemehem va'ani evtach bach. Yehi ratzon lefanecha Adonai Elohai keshem she'azartani l'sayem Maseches Pesachim kein ta'azreni lahatchil masechtos usfarim acherim u'saimam lilmod u'lamed lishmor u'la'asos u'kayem es kol divrei salmud torasecha b'ahava u'schus kol ha'tanaim v'ha'amoraim v'talmidei chachamim ya'amod li u'zari shelo samush ha'torah mipi u'mipi zari v'zera zari ad olam v'yitkayem bi v'his halechecha tanche osach v'shachbacha tishmor alecha v'hakitzos hi tishichecha ki v'yirbu yamecha v'yosifu lecha shnos chaim orach yamim bimina b'shmola osher v'chavod anai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yivarech esamo v'shalom.
Yiskadal v'yiskadal shemerava. Ya'amat hu asiz la'is chadasa ula'afya'a mesaya ula'asaka yatzhon l'chaye alma ulamivnei karta d'Yerushalem ula'shachlala hechle begava ulamekar palchana nuchra'a me'ara v'la'asava palchana Dishmaya la'asrei v'yamlich kedusha brichu v'malchusei v'yikarei v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beis Yisrael ba'agola u'v'zman kari v'imru amen.
Amen. Hey, Shemori la'abam evarach v'olam v'olam v'nayo.
Yisbarak v'yishtabak v'yisbahar v'yisramam v'yisnaseh v'yisadar v'yisaleh v'yisalal shemei d'kedusha brichu v'elah v'chol birkasa v'shirasa v'shirasa Amiran be'olam v'imru amen. Amen. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Tamidehon v'al kol Talmidehon v'al kol man askin ba'araisa di ba'asra hadain v'di v'chol asar ve'asar yehei lahon u'lachon shlama rabba kina v'hista v'rachameh v'chayei arifei umzonei revichei v'fukana min kadam avuhon b'bishmaya v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chaim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
That is
Right.
amazing.
Thank you.
Say hi to your family. They're all sitting
Amazing.
Mazel tov.